I'm going to give you a practical approach so you can have more confidence when you're talking to people. Anybody want to be more confident when they talk to people? I know I do. I'm going to kind of give you a blueprint that can help you. Okay, you guys ready? Okay, so Scripture tells us this. Always be ready to make a defense to everyone who asks you a reason for the hope that's in you. I'm going to give you guys a tactical approach to defending your Christian faith, okay? I think if we were all honest, we'd all like to be a little more effective and have meaningful conversations. But what's nice about this approach, guys, it allows you to graciously stay in control, and you don't need to do all the talking. You know, it's an approach that Jesus used often. Many times, if you read Scripture, he asks lots of questions. He wanted to get people to think. So this approach that I'm going to share with you is actually an approach to get other people to think. Because even though you're in the driver's seat, you're letting them do the talking because you ask some really key pointed questions. And always remember this. In Colossians 4:6, if you're taking notes, you can write that down. It says, let your speech always be with grace, seasoned with salt, so that you may know how you ought to answer each person. When you're talking, or maybe you get in a discussion and an argument, you don't want to be that obnoxious guy or girl that just thinks they're a know-it-all, right? None of us like that. You want someone that is gracious and they listen. So let's remember that. And then in Ephesians 4, we're told we should always speak the truth, but speak the truth in love. When someone makes a truth claim or a statement they believe is true, it's not your job to refute it. It's their job to defend it. Let me say that again. When someone makes a truth claim, it's not your job to refute it. It's their job to defend it. You put the burden of proof on them. Let me give you an example. Someone may come up to you and say, I don't believe the Bible. How can you trust a Bible that was written hundreds of years ago and has changed? Now, you guys are a little more equipped because you heard, last week we talked a lot about this. But when someone says something like that, I don't believe in a God that allows evil and suffering. What is our first reaction? I think we immediately want to start talking. We immediately want to answering the question. Here's the thing, guys. We never know what journey people are on. We don't even know what triggered that question. We don't know if they believe it or not believe it. So here's the first tactic. When someone makes a truth claim, I don't believe the Bible, all you do is simply step back and say, what do you mean by that? And be quiet. Because what that does, it gives you some context, it buys you some time. You don't have to answer all these questions like, oh my gosh, I got to prove it in the Bible. No, someone just made a claim. The burden of proof is always on them. You made the claim, so you said the Bible is not true. What do you mean by that? And then I just be quiet. See how easy that is? Because all I'm doing is clarifying what they said, and then you shut up. The second question is this. How did you come to that conclusion? How did you come to the conclusion that you don't believe the Bible? And then shut up. You know what? 98% of the time, they've never come to a conclusion. They probably just are repeating a slogan they heard or something on the internet. But again, 95% or more people have never, they just heard it. And what happens is they make this statement and it shuts you up, so question's over and then you move on. And then you're never even able to share any truth or gospel. So the first question is this, in this tactic, what do you mean by that? Second question, how did you come to that conclusion? And the third question, and this is the first time that you even interject. Have you considered? And then give them something to consider. It's kind of like, I don't know if you ever heard this statement, put a rock in somebody's shoe. Have you ever been on a hike and you get a piece of gravel? At some point, what has to happen? You got to deal with it. You're like, this is so annoying, but you don't want to stop. Finally, you got to sit down, take off your shoe, take the rock out. When you give somebody a thoughtful nugget, rock in the shoe to consider, they're going to have to deal with it, especially if it's a nugget of truth. So let me give you an example. let's go back to the New Testament since we've been talking about that and we talked about it yesterday. So someone makes the statement, I don't believe the Bible. What do you mean by that? How did you come to that conclusion? And then after all of that, then you just give them something to think about. Have you considered that the New Testament document passes the test that historians use for ancient documents to see if they're reliable? Maybe they'd never even thought about that. Did you know, and you guys learned this the other day, did you know that there are more manuscripts and earlier manuscripts than all the ancient classical contemporary writings combined? Most people haven't thought of that. So see what you're doing? You're actually in control, kind of like Jesus was, by asking thoughtful questions. This can be on any subject, guys. When someone just says something, you run into people all the time. Remember these 3 things, and it'll actually help you. You'll feel more confident. They'll feel more heard, and then you give them some truth. Here's the thing. You've got to do your homework. If you're going to tell them, have you considered, you better give them something to consider. That's why you have to do your part too. So that's a tactical approach that I learned early on, and just helping people. Because the goal is to help people and to be loving.